Welcome to Coach's Corner, everybody. Thanks for watching the show. Four-wheel drive here we got going on. Blazers up there. Look at him. Looks like he can still play. Syracuse defensive lineman plays winner.
Billy, you know you have a larger one.
There you go, baby.
Was that one of those mosquito bites, Florida?
A noodle. It was a spaghetti noodle.
Hey, Billy was a power lifter. Gosh, man, he could. Billy, how much did you bench and how much did you squat? I got to tell you, I wasn't weak. I actually made the All-American strength team my senior year at Alabama, but I only benched like 360, squatted like 500, and cleaned 320, I think. Billy, what were your numbers, man, with the three? Because we all did the three power lifts, right?
Yeah, when I topped off at Dallas, when I came in for the combine, I had just over 5 on the bench, a little bit of 7 on the squat, and my hang clean was up in the 380 to 420 range.
I had the one lift that no, it wasn't you. It was someone else. And always had a hard time with the deadlift. No, it wasn't you. It wasn't you. It was Tom Zapamzik used to be the strength coach at the Colts. You probably know him. He was one of the strongest men in the world. His bench was over 6.
Yeah.
And he squatted over near 1,000. And this guy was but he could not deadlift. Could not. So every Wednesday, it was like Black Wednesday, he was not able to get, even half of his squat up. The dimensions weren't there, and he just did not know how to pull the bar from the ground. So he was more of that traditional bencher / squatter than he was a clean or a guy like that.
I tell you, the weight room in Alabama was all intense, man. It was just like O'Leary had us before school in high school. It was all or nothing in there. And I was lucky to have 2 Hall of Fame strength coaches, in Kent Johnston and Al Miller, who's on the Mount Rushmore of strength coaches. But man, I would have never made it if it wasn't for my strength coach in college.
Oh, I agree too. O'Leary and Mike Wilson, right?
Right.
Mike Wilson was and is one of the best there ever was. Not only did he do it in college for the 4-wheel drive, but he did it at the pro level forever. I think he has Super Bowl rings, 9. He did it with all types of premier athletes. And he was it wasn't just heavyweight. It was being smart. It was about lifting the right way. And I love, Billy taught me a lot about lifting also, but Mike,
technique.
Those guys, because, when you first enter college, you come from whatever it was. And at Tappan Zee High School, we really had no weight program in those days. So you come into the situation with, really very little knowledge. And Billy came in with a ton of knowledge from Liverpool.
I credit a lot of that with Oscar Jensen. He was my track coach at Liverpool, and that was a trade-off. Why I threw the shot and disc was the strength training, because as you guys remember, back when we played, the game was all about strength and power. It wasn't the game they played today. If you didn't put 2 to 3 hours in a day in the weight room, you couldn't play. You couldn't play in that defense or offensive line area.
It's critical. Even today, they have different training methods, but still, it's just as critical, because the strength coach spends more time than head coach or position coach with the players.
Right.
You saw that as you and I were talking, Trip. You saw that a little bit the other night with Tech just physically dominating, finesse athletes. Florida's known for what? Just having wow athletes, and they're a great team. Don't get me wrong, and you know what? Brett Keys is deciding the old theory thing, which is they were going to pound the ball down your throat, and they did.
Yeah, you're right. It was old school the last week. Florida State, Brett Keys, the coach for George O'Leary. Brett Keys, coach for Nick Saban.
That's right. Yeah.
They all believe in that power football, and they made FSU's vaunted, heralded defensive line give up, I think, 5.3 yards per carry.
You really have to recruit the right type of person to want to be in that type of system. I mean, you have to have the old school guys like the 4-wheel drive, hard-nosed workers, nasty, and it's hard to find those kids out there. They all want to run the ball. They all want to throw the ball around. They want to rush the quarterback. They want to, hey, look at me on the edge. And sometimes it's just about doing it the old school way, and it's still allowed. I mean, it's still allowed. If you want to be that coach, you can find those athletes that really don't mind being physically dominant. I mean, they might be able to go a long way if they stay healthy.
Yeah, they're choosing not to. They're choosing not to do that. And that's what Coach's Corner and 4-Wheel Drive is today. Thanks for watching this show here on Coach's Corner. We try to inspire, educate, the mind to think, the heart to feel, and the body to act. We're going to talk about choices. Let's get into it. Brought to you by Pensacola Glass, the clear choice for all your glass needs. Folks, there's really only one rule. It's never wrong to do what's right. It's never right to do what's wrong. It's called integrity, and it's easier said than done, especially when you're dealing with teenagers. You have to explain the ground rules for their behavior and the consequences that come with breaking the rules. And I used to tell them, there's a choice you have to make in everything that you do, and you must always keep in mind that the choice you make makes you. If every kid followed the rule, it'd be easy. We'd have no issues. It'd be boring. But that's not the real world. We all know that team unity is about love and trust. It's a vital factor, and we talked about it last week. The trust of a teammate is also a choice. This ingredient doesn't come overnight. The decision to trust someone is earned over time. Team chemistry requires togetherness where teammates build that bond, socializing off the field like a family. You have good times and you have bad times. When people grind and suffer together, they come together. During games, there's only the players and coaches sometimes that think you can win. There's a lot of situations you have to trust. You have to have that need to proceed in order to succeed, okay? Another choice you have to make is confidence, okay? You have to decide whether you're a confident player or not. For instance, during our staff's first year at Tate High School in Pensacola in 2013, we took over a team that lost 19 of their previous 20 games. We had to convince the players to play more like the Chicago Bears instead of the Bad News Bears. Okay. After we got punched in the mouth our first game against the great high school team, 45-3. Okay. There weren't many people outside our program that thought we could go on and win the next week against another powerhouse, Pensacola High School, who that team has not beaten in 20-some years. Well, guess what? We beat them and then won 7 of our next 8 games to go to the playoffs. You know why? Because they chose to have confidence, okay? The players chose to play with that, okay? All right, guys, let's stop and discuss a little bit before we move on to the next segment. Blazer, what are your comments on,
Well, the observation. I mean, as a young athlete, you're observing. And you're listening, and you're observing, and you're observing the best there is from the NFL and maybe colleges that are around your area, around Florida. I mean, you're constantly observing other people. You're a 9th grader, you're a junior high kid, you're a early high school kid. You're observing the ones that are being recruited, and that observation phase is critically important to say, what do they have that I don't have? And the obvious for them is they'll say speed, height, weight, strength. But after all the dust settles, they realize that those people are rather bold and brave what they do. They have a sense of I'm important. I'm important. That seems to be very, very meaningful to the outcome. When I came to Syracuse, I mean, I was surrounded by Billy, Jamie, and Green, and they would radiate confidence, belief in oneself. And it got me off the hump of feeling inadequate at times. And I let myself grow in confidence. You don't always start out that way. You grow in confidence by the things and the players that you observe around you. Mm-hmm. Was I an automatic leader? Billy might say I was, but no, I don't believe I was. I had to grow into it because I observed in high school Tony Yonta. I remember Tony Yonta, that amazing, confident running back. Was he going to Penn State, Ohio State, Notre Dame? No. But the observation and then tried to mimic these players are a huge part of why someone grows into a state of mind that is, that it's going to be more apt and not productive.
Billy, how do you choose to be confident when nobody else believes in you but you?
You know that I think the choices. When you talk choices, you talk a lot about sacrifice, and a lot of kids. I've had a lot of kids come through as far as coaching football, coaching weights, stuff like that, and you get all these kids talking about how they want to go to college, they want to play at these Division I teams, they want to win state titles, they want and there's a very if I can say a few good words to coaches out there listening, there's a very, very high price that you got to pay to really win. Okay, and with that comes a sacrifice and making choices of, do I go to the weight room in the winter, or do I play lacrosse, or do I go out for track? Do I go out for basketball? Do I
go to the beach? Yeah, do I go out with my buddies? Sacrifice.
Right. Do I get a job? Do I have a car? Do I have a girlfriend? Choices. And if you make, nowadays, back when me, Blaze, and you came out of high school, the choices we made didn't hamper us as much as it does now. You could, in yourself, look at how many sports you played. 3 sports in high school. You still went on to succeed at Alabama. Blaze did 2 sports, 2-3 sports. I did 2 or 3 sports. Nowadays, 2024, the choices these kids make can determine whether they are going to play at the next level.
Very
awesome. True. Awesome. You're right. You're both right. Okay. You talk about observing, Blaze. When I got to Bama, I was not ready to play. Everybody, I guess coaches knew it. It took me 2 years to get ready, but I observed other players, how they behaved, how they practiced, how they did techniques. I was lucky, man. I had 2 All-Americans ahead of me, Jeremiah Castile at cornerback and Tommy Wilcox at strong safety. So I just observed them, and they gave me confidence once it happened. Okay, Billy, you talk about sacrifice. That's coming up here in a little bit in the Saban. I quote Saban in the sacrifice, what it means to sacrifice. Okay, let's continue on. Coaches want givers, not takers. There are 2 kinds of people, I believe. I believe there are dream makers and dream breakers. Okay, sometimes I would ask my players, which one are you? And of course, they all say dream makers, and then I tell them, well, then you must put. You must put these practice habits in place and commit to them. Use sacrifice. I ask them, are you willing to sustain sacrifice to reach success? Coach Saban asks his players, quote, do you want the pain of disappointment or do you want the pain of discipline? You have to make a choice. Which one? Okay. Another protocol is to hold kids accountable to themselves and to each other. And you've heard the phrase, I want him next to me in a foxhole. The last thing a soldier wants to do is let their buddy down. I believe in the Marines motto, no man or woman, because your daughter's a Marine, Billy, no man or woman left behind. So let's talk about that. Billy, you hit the nail on the head. You knew what was coming up. Sacrifice is a big thing, but also commitment to each other and accountability. Does your daughter talk about that as a Marine?
Absolutely. I mean, that's, being around two lifetime Marines, my daughter and my son-in-law, both been in for many years. They're getting towards retirement level. And unfortunately, society is changing things, and the military now is not what it used to be, even go back 5, 6, 7 years ago. And it's not what it was. They're teaching, it's more verbal battle than it is physical battle anymore. So, you talk about, we go back to choices, we go back to making sacrifices, and I always go back to the kids I train, and I lay it out for them pretty simply. Whether if you want to play it at Alabama, if you want to play it at Texas, if you want to play at Syracuse, if you want to play at the highest level, you've got to take sacrifices out of your life and stop some of the things you got to do and make different things priority.
Different choices, yes.
And going back to when you were talking about observing, not to regress that much, but when me and Blaze came in at SU, we had to play as freshmen. Now, we weren't playing because we were the greatest guys out there. We, beating guys out that were senior starters. We had to play out of necessity, and that meant, and Coach O'Leary sat down with us. I don't know if Blaze remembers this, but we had to sacrifice even back in college when other guys were going out, hanging out, maybe partying a little bit more, doing a little bit of this and that. You remember your freshman year? It was more of a party year, and we missed out on a lot of that. I missed out on a lot of that in high school. I mean, I never went I never went to my senior prom. I never went to dances. I never went to any of that stuff. It was all about sacrifice to get where you wanted to be, and where I wanted to be was playing at a Division I school.
Yeah, I remember Coach Bryant talking about, football players, you're something special. He used to come out and say it. You know why? Because you can't do the other things these other 17,000 students are doing. He says you can't go out and do what they do. You don't have time. Your schedule is, that's why you're special. You have to sacrifice. He was saying you have to sacrifice in order to get something. And
I think what I'm going to throw in there is I believe the other point is these young people are saturated with 1 hour and there's a result. 5 minutes and there's a result. A 30-second spot and Vice President Harris is going to solve all our problems. Trump is going to solve this. You have a 2-hour movie. I don't care if it's Slapshot. I don't care if it's Rocky. I don't care if it's any movie out there. I wanted to watch the other night, the Vince Apollo movie. And it's so easy to get caught up in, it'll only take a day, a week, a month, a year. And Billy and I know, as you know also, it takes years of grinding, years. Can you sacrifice for not 1 minute, 1 hour, not one physical test, conditioning test, but every year, every day on that field? It was a test for us. Would we survive? And you have to observe it, but you also have to be willing to translate it into your own life and say that this is not a 1 minute and done, one practice and done. Right. And this is why pros are pros. This is why successful people are successful. They translate it into a long-term, everyday habit. And that habit is sacrificed to the point that I need to. And it's just beautiful to watch. And I know it's so fulfilling in my own life. And Billy, I know I've talked to him. It's so fulfilling to see what those things did. But young people get this false sense of, hey, man, I did my 1 week. Where's my reward?
Right.
Buddy,
Right.
what if it takes? And the last thing I'll say is, what about my son, who's a musician, the older son, the musician? He has gone through that barrier of, I've worked for years. Well, it might take 20 more years. Oh, no, I can't. Well, what if it does?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
perseverance.
Yeah.
You gotta hold up for the long run, because you'll have people dropping out left and right. And
Yes.
I think
Yes.
kids are that way.
That's right. Absolutely, man. Perseverance is omnipotent, man. I'm telling you, I figured it out one day, man. When I got to Alabama, I went 220 practices, over 550 workouts before I even slipped on the jersey to travel for a game.
Wow.
So that's the kind of sacrifice that you need. All right. So as a coach, you should make a choice to talk to your players, about other things more than football. It's true that kids listen to their coach sometimes more than their own parents, and I wish that wasn't the case. Okay, but remember, players don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So choose to tell the players that your job, this is what I choose to tell my players. My job is to love you guys. Your job is to love each other. Okay. And here are some rules that I incorporate into my coaching principles. The players should choose to trust yourself, trust your teammates and your coaches. They should choose to respect yourself, your teammates and coaches. They should choose to never blame, point fingers, or make excuses. Take responsibility. They should choose to be prompt. To be early is to be on time. To be on time is to be late. And to be late is to be forgotten. Don't let me forget you. Give 100%. I value this, Blazer and Billy, more than anything else. I will play a guy with a little less talent, but if he gives me 100% effort, he's going to be playing as opposed to the guy that doesn't hustle or run to the ball. And then the last one, leader. Don't talk the talk, walk the walk. Talking trash is disrespectful to your opponent at that level. I always tell them, you want to talk trash, wait till you get to the NFL, because it's all about intimidation up there. Okay? You can preach a better sermon with your actions than your words. Being a good leader means being humble. When a man sings his own praises, he always gets the wrong pick. I heard Coach Saban say, what you do speaks so loudly, I can't hear what you say. There's a huge difference between wanting to and willing to. Everyone wants to, but only leaders are willing to. And that's where the phrase "the will to win" originated from. There are no traffic jams on the road to the extra mile. Talk about those principles, Blazer.
George O'Leary. That's where everything you just said was just clearly hammered out. And there was no compromise. There was no compromise on that daily routine. There was no compromise on feeling sorry for yourself. There was no time for it. There was no distraction from what the game was at hand, and that it was preparation from beginning to end. And I saw it demonstrated with George O'Leary. I saw it demonstrated in his life. I saw it demonstrated everywhere he went. Now, one thing I did learn from being coached by him is I have to find a way to breathe. Some of us can laugh, like Billy. He taught me how to laugh. Tim would read a book. Jamie would go hang out with his friends in different ways. His wrestling friends or whatever they were, his friends. I found my wife. My wife gave me a chance to say, is it enough? Because there's some people that will literally eat themselves alive on what George O'Leary would offer. And you have to have a certain degree of balance. Now, I'm rare. I think the four-wheel drive they're very rare group of people. This is why I believe that Syracuse should recognize the four-wheel drive, is that we are very rare people willing to do what the man said day in and day out,
Right.
and not do it in a selfish fashion. But I also know that, hey, man, there was a time that, hey, you know what? I'm going to breathe. I'm very thankful for the people that gave me a chance to recover. Otherwise, my personality type would have been, I'm done, man. And Billy knows that firsthand.
Yeah, that's all right. Let's move on. You made some great points. No compromise, no distractions. O'Leary, Coach Bryant, and Saban. Just those three always come to my mind. Coach Bryant was said, everybody, wanting to and willing to. Everybody who wants to, but most people are not willing to prepare properly. He used to say preparation was huge. You just mentioned it. All right, coaches choose how to teach too and how to coach. Okay, the coach has to make choices as well. When teaching X's and O's, there's a teaching process that allows players to choose the correct option. I learned this from the great John Wooden, who won 8 national titles in college basketball, and that is a record that will never be broken. And I figured if it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me. So I said the laws of learning. This is what he called it, because he was a teacher too. He was, teacher and coaches are very similar. All right, number 1, explanation. Full attention, get their eye contact, communicate clearly to the student. Demonstration. Most coaches can't do this, but I stayed in shape and showed them how to backpedal and move and take on blocks. All right, that's critical. You got to demonstrate it. Math teachers got to demonstrate the problem on the board. Participation. The students have to try it. Correction. You have to positively reinforce them, tell them about the mistake, and then positively comment. I know, because it takes practice. You just want to yell at them. No, that ain't right. And I still do that. But correction, you got to correct them. Repetition. Do it and not until they get it right. Do it until they can't get it wrong. There's a difference. Okay. The goal is to create a correct habit that can be produced and reproduced instinctively under great pressure. I believe the average coach explains, good coaches demonstrate, great coaches motivate. Another coaching choice that is important to me is that we have fun. I was an intense and demanding coach, but it was important for me to have fun. The kids want to have fun. That's why most kids quit sports when they're 8th, 9th grade. They're not having fun. There's a time for everything, okay? All right, so now's the time for a Bible verse of the week. Their purpose is to teach people to live disciplined and successful lives, give insight to the simple, knowledge and discernment to the young, unquote, Proverbs chapter 1, verse 3 and 4. All right, what'd you guys think about coaching protocol or any of that? Gosh.
Paulie, to Blaze's point, going back, I think some of your better coaches out there are coaches that can not use their own philosophy with kids that are different. If you get kids that are better at one thing than another, you gotta be able to bend a little bit and change a little bit as a good coach. Yeah. So I think Coach O'Leary, to Blaze's point, he took 4 guys from New York State. The common bond the 4 of us had, the very common bond, I feel, by standing back and looking at all these 3 other guys, was mental and physical toughness to the point of we can work on fundamentals every day. We could do an hour of fundamentals every day. You look at these Pop Warner programs, some of these high school programs. They want these young kids to run triple reverses. They want them to do all this madness stuff they see on TV and computers. You need to have coaches that can go back to fundamentals, that can go back to being a little more flexible when it comes to the athletes you have,
Blazer?
I agree with Billy. I think, you find that if you want to have long-term success, there's going to be a need for I hate the word compromise, but there has to be an adjustment made with that individually you may need to play better. You can't throw them all away.
Right.
At times, I would see, George, when I coached with them, I don't want him. You throw him away. And then I also saw times where he thought we need him as a player. We have to make him into a player. Go spend the time on the first step. Go spend the time on the hand placement. And it was clearly that we all wanted a certain type of player. But like Billy said, you're not going to get everybody being the same.
Right.
Do you raise the white flag and say, I surrender you all? I want you all happy. I want you all having fun. No, man. That's not what a team sport is all about. It's about understanding we have to give and take. But there is a foundation, and that foundation of techniques, the foundation of rules and regulations for us to be successful is critically important. And there's certain things that can't be compromised by a coach. And you can't play with one in a different way that creates chaos in the others.
Yeah,
If I'm like, hey man, Blaze, you go in and go to sleep. You go shower, go to bed, because you know what? You deserve it.
Blaze is talking about a foundation in coaching, which is a great point for coaches listening to this, players. Paulie, you're involved with 2 houses right now. People going to buy a house. What's the first thing you look at when you buy a house? You look at the foundation, how the house is built, what it's built on, and that's part of. You've got very few coaches that understand the foundation of coaching, and Coach George, O'Leary was huge on that. Everything went back to that foundation.
All right, I'm gonna wrap up both of your. I'm gonna follow up both of your comments. An hour of fundamentals requires mental toughness. Blazer said. I'll tell a quick story. I read a book on Joe Montana and Jerry Rice, coach of San Francisco, Bill Walsh, and he drove by a high school one day in their off day on the NFL off day, and he saw Jerry Rice and Joe Montana doing fundamentals for hours that would bore a high school kid to death. He said, quote, I'll never forget that. Okay. So that's what it takes. Mental toughness. A kid is worth saving sometimes. Yes. I got a second chance at Liverpool, and at Alabama, I got a second chance. So I always gave a kid a second chance. Did I give him a third? Not all the time, but I did give him a second chance if I thought he was worth saving. Great show, guys. Man, that was awesome. I appreciate you guys contributing to Coach's Corner in this. I want to shout out Timmy Green and Jamie Kimmel, the other half of Four Wheel Drive. We're going to get those guys on, man. We're going to get Timmy on. I want to announce a new segment on my show, Good and Faithful Servant, coming up next week with Kerry Good, who also has ALS and friends with Timmy Green, my teammate at Alabama. So stay tuned for that new segment on Coach's Corner. Guys, love you guys, man. Great job as always.
Take care.
Billy, I love you, buddy. Thanks for everything.
Hey, thanks for your support, both you guys. Thank you.
Peace, brother. Love you guys. So long.
See ya.
All right. See you, Bill. All right. Stay tuned for these important messages. Without these sponsors, this just wouldn't be possible. Have a great sports tonight, everybody. So long.
There's a reason why Hill Kelly in Pensacola is the #1 selling Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram dealer between Jacksonville and New Orleans. While other dealers have taken advantage of a competitive market with higher prices, Hill Kelly has discounted prices to the lowest of the year. And Hill Kelly in Pensacola won't surprise you with excessive charges beyond the selling price. Come see why people from Milton, Pace, Foley, Bay Minette, Daphne, Gulf Shores, Mobile, and beyond are driving to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to buy their next new Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, or Ram. At Hill Kelly, the bottom line price and your satisfaction are what really matter. So before you sign, check the bottom line and make the trip to Hill Kelly in Pensacola to see what true local ownership can do for you. At Hill Kelly Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, Highway 29 in Car City, Pensacola. Or shop online 24/7 at hillkellydodge.com. When it comes to bottom line pricing, nobody beats a Hill Kelly deal. Nobody.
75 years of service in high tech today. It's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348. High tech is a term often applied to advanced services and products in today's marketplace. And today, glass is much more than a simple pane of brittle, see-through stuff we hit baseballs through when we were kids. Glass is now a product with unique flexibility in both performance and application. And Pensacola Glass Company is growing right along. That's Pensacola Glass Company at 433-8348.
Are you riding around in a filthy vehicle? Dirty car no more. Visit Ronnie's Car Wash today to get it shining in no time. They have 3 convenient locations with another coming soon. The unlimited monthly wash packages start as low as $14.95 per month with free vacuums, multi-purpose spray and towels. Visit them in Gulf Breeze, Navarre, Fort Walton, and soon Crestview. Don't wait, wash today. Be sure to see Ronnie's Car Wash on Facebook to see the latest specials and discounts. You'll be riding and shining in no time.
Drive a little to save a lot on 170 Buicks and GMCs at Step 1 Buick GMC. Get savings up to $4,000 on new Buick Encores, $9,450 on new Buick Envisions, $7,000 on new GMC Yukon XLs, or up to $15,345 off on new Sierras. Only at Step 1 Buick GMC, Pensacola.
Plus tax, tag, title, license, dealer processing fee expires 7/31/24 on select new 24 in-stock models. Discount off MSRP includes all incentives.
That's you trying to fix the plumbing yourself to save a few bucks. Doing things yourself doesn't always end well. The same goes for insurance. That's why Auto Owners works with local independent agents who tailor coverage to meet your needs and offer discounts for life, home, car, and business insurance. Because sometimes you need a professional to get the job done right. That's simple human sense.